You're listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, the show that invites you into the lives of people who make up the Ultra family. Here's your host for these conversations, Larry Ryan.
Thanks, MJ. In today's conversation, I speak with Alex Luna from Ultra Brazil 515. On April 14th to the 16th, this race is celebrating its 10th anniversary. We discuss the history of the race and the ohana that has created this 515 race. You know, it didn't take long in speaking with Alex to figure out that he truly lives the values that Curtis Tyler used to create the original race with aloha, ohana, and kokua. Throughout our conversation, Alex continues to go back to those values in his stories and how they have changed not only his life, but also those of the athletes that attend the UB515 year after year. I hope that you get as much out of this conversation as I did, and I certainly enjoyed talking with Alex. Today we are going to go into the Southern Hemisphere to speak with the race director of the UB515 in Brazil. On April the 15th, they will begin their 10th anniversary race. Welcome to the podcast, Bem-vindo, Alexandre Luna.
Oh, thank you so much, Larry.
How did I do with my Portuguese
you.
there?
No, your Portuguese is doing fine, and I want to apologize in advance for my poor English. Thank you so much, in name of the race directors, of all the race directors of UB515, for opening for us such an important space to talk about, the race that we love, which is the Ultraman race, the 515 distance race. And it's awesome for us, to be here and share the experience and say something about, a Brazilian experience.
Yeah, it's great, and I've actually experienced that firsthand. I went down to the Olympics in 2016 to cheer on some friends that were competing down there, and I know that you have a very beautiful country, and the people there are very hospitable and friendly.
We try.
I was in Rio, and I believe you're probably in a region a little bit closer to Sao Paulo for the race. You're kind of halfway in between or something. Can you tell us a little bit about the region you're in?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I live in Rio de Janeiro, but the race, the first time that we did the race, we started in a beautiful city called Paraty, and which is pretty close from the border of the state of Rio de Janeiro to the state of São Paulo. So originally the first race we started, the athletes swam in Paraty, so we went all the way down to Rio de Janeiro and it finished, in the city of Rio de Janeiro. It was really nice, really cool at that time. But today now, for this 10th edition, we're going to do the race all in just one city, which is Ubatuba, which is 70 kilometers away from Paraty, which is in the state of São Paulo. So we changed that because it was in the view of logistics, it was really challenging for us, to start the race in Paraty and to go all the way down to Rio de Janeiro, a lot of logistics, a lot of nothing we say in Portuguese, nada constant, have to deal a lot of different cities and a lot of different authorizations. Right. It was a nightmare, a logistics nightmare, yes. Larry. So we decided to do all the racing in Ubatuba, which is a beautiful city. And I hope you had the chance to come down. I already invited you, and I want to do this again. Now we would love to have you here with us.
Well, thank you.
As a race director. Please consider the possibility in the near future.
I can consider the possibility when I retire from teaching. Otherwise,
okay.
it's a big conflict.
I understand.
For me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your course going to be like then? Is it hilly? Is it mountainous? Is it flatter? What? Tell us a little bit about your course.
Well, we have a very scenic swim. So we have a swim course that is on a kind of a bay in Ubatuba, which is closed So we have four boys, boy 1 to boy 4. It's 1 kilometer. So back and forth 2 kilometers, and the athletes go do that, 5 times.
Okay. And then what's it like for your bike course and your run course?
So the bike course is pretty hilly. It was a bike course that was actually what we say the Costa Verde, which is that area of both states of Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. That we call it the Green Coast, which is very scenic, very, very nice. So you have all the forests on one side and all the beautiful beaches in the seashore on the other side. So it's really, really hilly. It's a rolling hills, course. And for the first day after they have swum, they go from Ubatuba to Paraty. Then they go back, and that's exactly 145 K.
Okay.
And for day 2, they start from Ubatuba and they go, on the direction of Paraty. They go by Paraty, and they go in the direction of a city called Angra dos Reis, which is really beautiful. And then comes, a mountain. It's a short mountain, only about 20 K, but it's pretty hilly, And we have 3 tunnels, 3 very old tunnels, which are very wet and a lot of holes. There are approximately 200-year-old tunnels, and that gives a kind of little magic to that day 2. And they go down from the 3rd tunnel from the top of the mountain, and then we finish on Paraty. And believe it or not, Larry, that's exactly 276 kilometers. Yeah, that's really, really important for us.
Yeah.
And that's day 2. So everyone finishes in Paraty. And then, after the last competitor or the last participant arrives, and then everybody jumps in the car and we go all the way back to Ubatuba. And then on the 3rd day, the double marathon, we created a course that is all around the city of Ubatuba. It's very scenic also. And we have about, 25 Ks of the 84 Ks. It's like a trail run, not as much as it is on Canada, which is a beautiful course, running course, but it's just like, And then we have also about 3 kilometers, very steep, hill. That's just after the first marathon. And then they come back to the city and they go all the way back and forth, all the shore that it is on the city, So it's pretty cool.
So they're kind of running along like a seawall along the city?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. That's it. And then we have the support. We have the support of the population. So it's for the city that it's pretty cool. Really, really nice.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So, but again, I'm sorry. So through the years, we kind of refine, the courses, and of course, you make a lot of mistakes, and good things also, and you go kind of refining, the course. So I think that actually we have a very challenging course. I think that if we can compare, I think that we have for a swim, we have a very friendly course, but the bike course and the run course is pretty challenging. I would say that our 2nd day of bike is pretty challenging. And the 3rd day of the marathon, it's very, very rolling hills also. But we're lucky enough, to have a lot of shades, very different from Hawaii. Yeah. And that helps a lot the athletes, on the 3rd day.
Yeah. And what are temperatures normally like down there? And is it the tropical heat that you have down there? Is what's the conditions like?
Well, UB515 starts. We organize it by the beginning of autumn here in Brazil. So I think it's mild. In degrees, I would say that we go around 34, 35 Celsius here in Brazil. It's hot, but we're used to it here in Brazil. So I would say around 34, 35 Celsius degrees.
Okay. So that's not mild for most of the world. That's hot.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're used to it, you know.
Yeah.
So most of the participants, you know, the athletes are from Brazil. So, and they go through their basically, you know, the biggest part of their training goes through the summer here in Brazil, which is much more harder. So it helps a lot for us to do in the autumn. Then that's one of the reasons why we opted to do it in April.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, 515 fans, there's another race in April that you might want to follow as well. Next weekend on April 7th and 8th, the Ultra MX 515 non-stop is taking place. So that's Van Sanchez putting that one on, so good luck to all the competitors down there. In the next part of my conversation with Alex, we talk about his Ohana. Although he is the main race director, everyone who helps out with running the UB515 is also given that title. And I think that goes to show a little bit about how they approach their race. Now, we were saying that this is going to be your 10th anniversary race. And I know that you probably have a little bit of history you would like to share about some of your races previous to this. And if you could, within those sharings, I would love for you to tell us about some of the other race directors that you have involved with your race, because you
definitely.
do have some big names and heavy hitters in the Ultraman world down there helping you out in organizing this race. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the people involved in your race and how they came to be involved with the race?
Sure, definitely. Well, before I tell the history, we're lucky enough to have Alexandre Ribeiro with us, you know, which I obviously I'm really passionate about it, but I think it's the GOAT so far, you know, for men, you know. And we have
six-time winner at the Ultraman Hawaii.
Yeah. A record is still to be broken, you know. And we have Sergio Cordeiro, which we love, you know, which is the guy that put the Ultraman in the map here in Brazil, even before Alexandre. Alexandre took it to another level, you know, but the entrepreneur of the Ultraman here in Brazil was Sergio Cordeiro. And we have Vanusa Maciel also, which helps us a lot, although she's not a race director, but she's always in contact with us, always giving, you know, a lot of feedback. And actually, we are a number of 14 race directors, and we have been together since the start. So now everyone knows exactly what to do. So it's pretty cool, you know, and to see, you know, how confident we are to do this race. But I can tell you, Larry, every year we have a challenge.
Yeah.
So, you know, so every year that we believe that, okay, this is going to be a easy edition, we'll have no problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, every time that we think about that, like that way, something happens. And we have been challenged a lot, especially the last year in the region of Ubatuba. There was a very, very, very heavy rain, and the road literally fell apart. So it was the first time, and that was exactly 1 month before the race. So we rushed to Ubatuba, you know, to see how the conditions. And it was the first time we did a circuit race, you know, for the first, the second, for the bike leg, and it worked perfectly fine because, you know, the 9th edition, the 2022 edition, was the year that we had the most tattooed athletes. So I think that the change in the course 1 month before wasn't a problem for those athletes, you know. But again, to your question, we have, you know, people like Alexandre, Sergio Cordeiro, and Paulo Calil, you know, that you maybe probably had heard.
Yeah. Actually,
of that caliber.
Yeah, I have something I actually want to play for you. Back in season 2, episode 5, when I interviewed my ex-wife, Lucy, she was trying to get into Badwater at the time. And in order to qualify for Badwater, you have to do other races to qualify. So she decided, well, I'm going to go do Brazil 135, because if I do that one race, I can qualify and I don't have to do 2 100-mile races or something like that. So I just want to play a clip for you from that interview, if I could.
Cut to the chase and just do the one that'll really get me in there. So I signed up for that.
And this ended up being one of those times where the ohana of the Ultraman family came in really handy in your career, because you were able to let people know that you were going there, and you were suddenly finding yourself being hosted by a man who did the race in Ultraman Canada, that is in 2008, right?
Paulo Calil hosted me, and he's a doctor in Brazil. And I met and stayed with his lovely family. They were beautiful. He took me in. He was fabulous. He paid for everything and didn't let me pay for anything. He got my crew together, and one of my crew, Sergio Cordeiro, when we went to the breakfast, there were people coming up to him like he was a rock star. And I'm like, oh my God, I have him as my crew. So that was great.
Yeah, so I think that kind of plays a little bit to the hospitality of Brazilians, you know, like maybe tell me a little bit about what you think when you hear that story.
Oh, well, as a Brazilians, we really try to be, you know, to give the best of our hospitality. And when I hear what Lucy said, you know, I really can immediately connect, you know, with Paulo Calil and Sergio Cordeiro, and I have the privilege, you know, to meet both of them. You know, I knew Sergio Cordeiro, you know, for years, and I've, you know, seen him in the media, you know, in the newspapers here in Brazil, and you know, it was funny because I got to know him while I was training. So, you know, I was training my bike in a road which is 100K away from my house, you know, and then passes this guy flying, you know, and then he stops ahead, asks if everything's okay, and then I immediately recognize him, you know. So he did a thing that, you know, he was training for Ultraman at a period, so he just stopped, you know, and did all my training, you know, in my speed. You know, he was talking about, you know, his experience, and that's Sergio. You know?
Mm-hmm. And Sergio, he's done like 10 Ultraman races and multiple decas around
Oh yeah,
all over the place. Like he's probably one of the most seasoned triathletes in the world.
yes. Sergio, I think he has done a bit more than 10, because only UB515 he has done 8.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 races. So this year now in this edition he will be with us as a race director.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he has a few you know, Ultraman races in his belt, and
maybe it was 10. Maybe it was 10 world championships that he's done.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he has been in Hawaii a few times. Has been also in Canada a few times.
Mm-hmm.
But recently he has been focusing more in the Utah distance races, you know,
mm-hmm.
and that made him even more a hero for us, a national hero for us in Brazil. So we have Alexandre Ribeiro for the Ultraman races, and we have Sergio Cordeiro for the Utah, you know, distance races, as you know, 3 irons, 5 irons, deca irons, double deca irons, those things that that makes us crazy, you know. And about Paulo Calil, it was a funny story because I met him in the sport, you know. We were doing a half Iron distance race many years ago, and then it was in a northeastern city here in Brazil called called Fortaleza, very hot, you know, 45 Celsius, 46 Celsius. And then we were, you know, back at the end of the race, you know, we were probably the last one, and we began to talk with each other. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, 6 months later, we found ourselves again in the same situation, mm-hmm. in a race in Brazil, and you know, about in São Paulo, I'm sorry, and about, you know, 7 or 8 months later, and that was maybe 1 year after we met for the first time, I went to Florianópolis, and, you know, for one of those coincidences of life, we stayed at the same Pousada, which is a small hotel. Mm. And then we got to he looked at me and he said, "Look, man, we got to be friends." because this has a reason to be happening.
Yeah.
So we got to be friends. And since then we become friends. And then we started to do, although he lived in São Paulo and I in Rio de Janeiro, we started to combine our races up until we did Ultraman. He did Ultraman Canada in 2007, and he invited me to be his captain, and it was me and his wife, and that was the Ultraman experience, that affect all of us when you have lived, and then the year later in 2008. We went to do Ultraman Hawaii, and back in 2007, that's in that race where I met Jane Bockus, which is a wonderful person. I mean, I think what a privilege to know Jane,
Yeah.
And then after we came back from Ultraman Hawaii in 2008, I'm probably advancing a few things, but that was the race, when UB515 started. That was the Ultraman Hawaii race where the first idea of doing a race in Brazil started. And it didn't start with me. It started with Paulo Calil and it started with Alexandre Ribeiro. They both, had the intention, the idea of putting an Ultraman race here in Brazil, but they didn't know about each other's initiatives. Alexandre has one initiative, Paulo has a second initiative, and then, as the time go by, we got to put those initiatives.
So they were both initiating a 515 race in Brazil without knowing the other one was doing it.
Exactly was that. And Paulo, can I develop that story?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So Paulo, in 2007, I got to know Cory Foulk, which is, you probably know,
another Ultraman legend. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ultraman and Ironman legend. I mean, it's such a privilege to know Cory in every sense, because what a wonderful human being. I mean, what a wonderful human being.
Yeah. I think if I could, I think he's done like 36 Ultraman races.
Yeah.
32 Ironman, 23 times at Ironman Hawaii. So he knows his way around a championship.
Oh, definitely. And he jokes a lot because I think that Cory is, we have counted, I mean, finishing, I don't recall if it was 23 or 24 races, Ultraman finished races. And then we say that he's a world record of finishing our Ultraman races. But he jokes also about the fact that he is also a world record DNF for Ultraman races.
Yeah, he might be up against Nick Mallett for that one.
Yeah. Wow, Nick. I love Nick. He's such a wonderful person. I got to know Nick in 2007 or so, and we got in touch. We keep in contact since then. But Paulo Calil and Cory Foulk, they were very connected to each other from that that period. And then they started the idea of putting our Ultraman race here in Brazil. And in that time, I wasn't aware of the project. Paulo told me that, involved me about a year after they were talking about the project. And then Paulo contacted me and said, look, I'm happy. I have this project here in Brazil, Cory to do Ultraman race, and I have been talking to Cory, but I can't go on with it. He's a doctor. Has at the time he had 3 kids, a lot of work. But I think you could maybe team up with Cory and make that happen. And the fact is, Larry, that my idea and what I really wanted to say to Paulo was, no, thanks. I had other things to do, but I just couldn't say no to him. And I was thinking, wow, I have said yes. How am I going to get out of this? Really, I really wanted to get out of it because, I had a lot of things to do. I had my kids, work. I came back to work, those things that we do, in everyday sense. But then Cory called me you know, and we became chatty, you know. So once in a while we made, you know, some Skype, you know, videos, video conferences, and we talked a lot, and that really began in me, you know. I began to think, yeah, maybe we could do it, you know. But my background, you know, Larry, as you mentioned before, my background is projects. My corporate life's basically made, you know, as a project manager.
And what sort of discipline are we talking about here, where you're a project manager?
Oh, now basically in IT, in technicians for all. So no, so I as a project manager, you know, you see the whole scope of the project. You know, you have a very technical way of seeing things, you know, and the activity, the predecessors, and the activities, you know, all the links between them.
Right.
You know, it's kind of boring, I confess, you know, but I like it. But it's kind of, you know, all the things depend of each other.
Right.
And after maybe almost 2 years, you know, about talking to Cory, he said to me once in a video conference, "Look, Luna, I'm getting old. Are we going to do this or not?
Right.
You please feel free. Please, absolutely free. I love to talk to you. You know, we're brothers now. I know everything about your family, you know everything about my family. But what about the project? Are we going with it or not? So please feel to tell me that you don't want it." And I at that time I have done some of homework, you know, about the projects, you know, putting in a spreadsheet, you know, those Gantt charts, typically from projects. And I opened my Gantt chart. I look, Cory, it's really hard for me, you know, because we got to get some sponsors and see these activities. And he just listened for me for 5 or 6 minutes, you know, about the reasons for not, the difficulties that I was having. Thank you, the objections, exactly. And he said, "Can I speak?" Definitely, yes, man. And with all that Hawaiian wisdom, probably I was talking to Cory. Probably I would listen the same thing from Curtis or from Jane, you know. And he said, "Look, man, if you keep on thinking that way, the event will never happen. You gotta let the event happen." And that was very, very wise, you know. And that was a turn point for UB515 to happen, you know. I said the F word, and I said, "Okay, let's do this." And so I began from up ahead to backwards. So we put on the dates,
right,
and then let's see how we're going to do it, you know. There was one thing in parallel to all that story também, also, Larry, was that I was doing my master's, and I had to stop training because I was going to lose my master's, you know, for what we call the dissertation.
Right.
And I had stopped to training to do my master's. And I literally stopped from training from one day to other. And during that period, which was around 6 months, my brother went to do his first Ironman here in Brazil. And in the marathon, he really got tired. So I went to jog with him a while. And prior to that, I was, you know, feeling, Larry, a lot of tired. So I thought to myself, wow, I just stopped training, and I don't know how to say it in English, but descondicionei really happy, really fast, you know, really fast. I began I lost my conditioning.
Right.
You know, and then I went while my brother was walking the marathon, I went to do some jogging with him, and I felt not tired, but I felt something different. You know, I never felt before, you know, the pain in the chest and the pain in your heart. So that I when I came back to Rio de Janeiro, I immediately began doing a lot of exams, hard exams, and then I find out, Larry, that a very important artery, which is named in Portuguese DA, was 100% obstructed. You know, so I could just have a heart attack at any time. You know, so from the day that was, I found out that one day, and the second day I went to surgery, and I put what's called stent,
Mm-hmm.
in the heart, and that changed everything there, changed everything. So this situation that I'm describing to you now, and the talk with Cory, they took, they were around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So they are really connected to the story, the history of UB515, because if I didn't have the heart problem, probably I would be, I don't know if I'm still now, but probably I would still be running Ironman and Ultraman races, And the fact that Cory also gave me that insight during that period, was very, very crucial for UB515 to happen, because I was really, emotional about and the real things that are important in life, Larry. And when we have such a, and it wasn't a huge, health problem. Fortunately for me, it was something that was really solved in a short, a very easy way. But despite that, it makes you think about the priorities in life.
Right.
And that, again, that with the fact that Cory, from the words of Cory, so we did the first UB515. And we did a very small race in Paraty, as I described before. And one thing that I really recall Jane saying to me and Cory saying to me also was, look, try to have some very experienced ultra triathletes, so they can participate in your first edition, and they can give you, a lot of feedbacks from what's going on. So from that, you can improve the race. And that was exactly what we did, and that was back in 2014. And we had Sergio Cordeiro, Vanusa Maciel, and other people that already had been in Ultraman Hawaii and Ultraman Canada helping us. So that's how UB515 happened.
And you mentioned this briefly, just you kind of brushed over his name. You also had Curtis Tyler giving some help here too, like the granddaddy, the father of the entire sport.
That was a bridge that was built by Cory, because they're very, very close to each other. Cory and Curtis, as Cory is also to Jane. And after I got involved with UB15, I began to see about all the history of the race. That's what typical project managers do, trying to understand everything that goes around the project. And Cory said, look, I'm going to put you in contact with Curtis. I know him very well. So I don't know if you have talked to Curtis. Yes, Larry.
I have
talked
not.
to him?
No, that's on my
list.
Oh,
Larry, you have to.
Yes.
Oh, you have to talk to him.
Maybe you can set that up for me.
Definitely, yes. You can count it. Yeah, you have to talk with him and Lesley, because his wife, she doesn't like to take credit, but people say that, behind Curtis is Lesley, which will really put the race in for the Ultraman race in place for the first time.
Yeah.
So
and that we should
Cory,
just explain that maybe for people listening that maybe don't know the name Curtis Tyler is like he originated the race in 1983 in Hawaii with a couple of his buddies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We always say that if Ironman has Colonel John Collins, Ultraman has Curtis Tyler. So he is absolutely, he and Lesley, are the father and the mother of what is Ultraman, of the Aloha, the Ohana, and the Kokua spirits. So Cory built that bridge for us, and I remember that I think it was in 2016 that we talked to it was Cory, Curtis, and Lesley when I got to know them in a video meeting, and I was immediately astonished by his words and his wife's words also, because he really, I think that he more than represents what is the Aloha and the Honolulu. I think that he is those three words, he and his wife. Obviously, you have that also in Jane and and all the people that work with Ultraman races or 515 races all over the world. But it began with him, so we cannot deny that. And it was awesome that Cory created that bridge for us, and Curtis and Lesley and Cory, they went for our 2017 edition as well as for our 2018 edition. One of the things that we all as race directors, I think that got us more emotional is when in our 2017 award ceremony, and Curtis was speaking to all of us, and he said that he expected that the Ultraman seeds would germinate in another country, and he thought that maybe that would happen in the American continent or in Europe, but he would never guess that would happen in Brazil. So he was very, very happy to see that that could happen in any country for the first time in Brazil, and he was expecting that to happen also that in other countries, and that was awesome to hear that from him. And since then we keep in contact, and he was Cory, Curtis, and Lesley was, as always, are very kind enough to participate now in via video conferences in our symposiums and awards. So it's very nice, very, very good to have them. And obviously all of us race directors and athletes, we love to hear them and to see them participating, even if it's by video conference with us. So it was something that we didn't plan, and came to happen for the first time in 2014. And as we look back now there, to see, for us as race director, and I speak for myself mainly, is to see, and I really never thought about that before saying this to you, but what a privilege, to get to know Cory, Curtis, Jane, Lesley, and Alexandre, and Sergio Cordeiro, and Vanusa, and Nick, all those athletes, that have involved in Ultraman, and now talking to you. So I think it's really, it's worth, all the troubles, the challenge that we face, because I don't believe it, like us, that a ultra distance race, 515 distance race, the race organizers do that for money.
No,
it doesn't pay our bills at all, And my wife told me a couple of years ago that if I spend more money from our savings rather than from what the athletes fees, she would divorce me. So
I've heard a very similar story from Steve Brown. His final kick at the can was a similar story. There, the wife was also saying, Maria, she's like, you know what? You can't keep subsidizing these races for these athletes to come and do this stuff.
Yeah. But despite that, Larry, after looking back and having the access, got to know people that very familiar, that lived this race, and also Larry, to see the transformation process which the athletes go through, since starting when they candidate themselves, when we're talking with them, and the training process, during the race, and to live that experience every year, and to see those faces, crossing the line on day 3.
Right.
So far, it's worth. So far, it's worth. It's
I,
very energizing for all of us.
When I go back to the races every year, it's for that reason. It's to see those new people that come and experience it, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be involved with the race directing as well when I was And it's amazing that, like you say, that you get to experience it firsthand from Curtis as well, because he's the one who was the Ohana Kakua
Yeah.
Aloha. You know, this is going to
Yes.
be the foundation of the race.
Exactly.
And the
Exactly.
way that
The
those
values.
seeds have spread around the world to Brazil and
Yes.
Mexico and the UK and
Yes.
Israel and Russia,
Yes.
and where all these
Yeah.
races are happening now.
Yes.
And it's all based back to that, you know, the AOK, and it comes back to that. Once people get that feeling and they experience that,
Yes.
they feel like they need to go back and give it to their country, and then they need to share
Exactly.
it more.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So that exactly. Thank you for saying that was exactly what happened to us. And we always say, Larry, that here that for UB515, the AOK experience, the AOK experience, uh, it's that the UB515 or triathlon. I know it's a cliche. It's not a way in itself, but it's not an end in itself, but a way, to achieve that. And we always
Mhm.
say to the athletes that UB515 will be dated on their lives. I mean, it will pass.
Mhm.
2008, 2014, and Ultraman was, dated for me, if I'm using the correct expression in English.
Mhm.
Uh, but the values, the AOK, they remain. That's the legacy of the
Right.
event, you know. So that's why we do that the race, to see. It's much more than the athletes thanking us at the end of the race,
Mhm.
but it's to live that transformation process, you know. Even when we talk to athletes, that done the race 4 or 5 years ago, you know, they say how much that it was transforming for them.
Mhm.
And for us at UB515, and I believe that mainly for every race, the 515 race director, we understand, that just um, we're just have we're just support. We have a role of supporting, because
Right.
the main actors are the athletes, you know, and we always say that to them, that if they believe that we give, energy and happiness to them, uh, us as race organizers, we receive much more from them than we give to them. If I make myself clear, if you understand what
Yes.
I'm
No.
saying. Uh,
Absolutely. Yes.
so every year, despite the fact that I believe that some race organizers will see this podcast, as I have seen most. It's very challenging.
Mhm.
We don't live by that. Because everyone has its work. It's bills to pay at the end of the month, and we mainly work on these races, at night and
Right.
on the weekends. You
Mhm.
know, but it's worth, Larry.
Yes.
It's worth, and that all based on that foundations of the AOK, which was created by Curtis and Lesley.
Right. You know, I couldn't have agreed more with Alex on that point. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to be a race director as well back when I was doing Ultraman Canada. It's that opportunity to spend time with these people. And again, year after year, I go back to the races and want to meet more of these outstanding people that are part of these races. And Alex is clearly one of those people. In the next segment, we learn a little more about Alex as an athlete and how his family is all involved in the UB515 organization. And then in the final part, Alex is going to give us the heads up on the field in this year's race. And if you speak Portuguese or can read it, you might be able to stay up to date with the race through their social media. You know, I would like to get into a little more of your background as well. You've touched on it a
Mhm.
little bit, but we've been talking about all these other people involved at your race, and you're like giving them all their props and whatnot. But let's hear a little bit more about you. You've done Ultraman Hawaii, you've done Ultraman Canada. Give us a little review of what your race history has been, and what are you currently doing, or are you doing anything as far as racing and training?
Well, I because of my heart condition, I cannot stop to train. I have to always be. I love the tri way. Yeah, to try a lifestyle.
Mhm.
And my family, my wife, my kids. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and she has been involved. We have pictures with her involved in UB515 since the beginning. My mother and my brothers and sisters. So we all live, the triathlon way of life.
Yeah.
But I started as swimmer, and I have to tell you, I swim badly, I bike badly, and and even more badly. But I love their lifestyle, and I
Yeah.
always love the training. I really enjoy the training. The long bike rides and the long runs.
Yeah.
So I began as a swimmer, and I started in triathlon pretty late. That was I was uh, by my late 20s, 28, 29 years,
Mhm.
because it's an expensive sport. So after I began work, got got to find my way in the corporate world, had my place, could afford my bike.
Right.
So I started in triathlon because a friend of mine, Paulo, which not Calil, he told me, look, you swim kind of good. Wouldn't you like to try triathlon? So I laughed at him. You're kidding me, man. Don't. I would never do a triathlon. You're saying bike, Ryan, or swim, biking, and running, and but then he insisted very much. So I went to do a first sprint triathlon in Copacabana,
Mhm.
long time ago, which I believe it was 250, 5K and 2K, and that was so transforming, Myron. Everyone that experiences that, and it was transforming. I fell in love with triathlon, and
Mhm.
at the first race, I got my helmet was borrowed, the bike was borrowed, everything, the swimming goggles was borrowed, yeah, and then
I hope you had your own bathing
I,
suit.
yeah, and then I started I really wanted to train, and then I talked to a friend, which is a physiotherapist. He said,
Physiotherapist.
look, no, man. And no, you got to talk with a professional a teacher, which is physical education. So he introduced me to Alexandre. That's where I got to know Alexandre Ribeiro.
Oh, okay.
So Alexandre Ribeiro was my first coach. And then obviously, naturally, I began, increasing the distances.
Right.
But those were the old days, So to do my first Ironman, it took me 5 years. It was a different school, then. Now it's very common for the athlete to do he or her
Yeah.
first triathlon as an Ironman. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Mhm.
I'm not in that discussion. I'm just saying that my time it was different. You
Yeah.
really had to
They
go
built it up.
increasing the
Yes.
distance.
Yeah.
Building up. So I did, Larry. Yeah, a lot of sprint, short distances. Olympic distance, and then I went to the 113 races, and then I got to do my first Ironman, which was in Brazil in 2002.
Mm.
That's when I got to see Paulo Calil,
Yeah.
and then I began. I did a few Ironmans. I did 10 Ironmans. 9 M dots. Brand
Right.
races, and one that is a 226. Let's see what exists here in Brazil.
Mhm.
And then I was in my late 30s. I think it was 39. And then uh, I came to meet my wife, and at the moment that I saw her, I knew I would like to marry her. And
And did you meet her at a triathlon?
No, I'm at work.
At work. Okay.
At work, yeah. And I knew it, and it was kind of funny, Larry, because from the day that I met her, and I knew that that triathlon would change in my life. I wouldn't be able to train and to live triathlon as I lived for 20 plus years.
Mm.
And it was just a routine. Train twice a week, twice a day. Early in the morning, swim at night, and do the long bike trainings at Saturdays and the long runs on Sundays. It doesn't matter if you had a race, a close race or not,
Yeah.
and I knew that would change. So I was at that time very close to Paulo Calil, and he was going through the same process. And he said, "Look, I got to do Ultraman." So he went to Ultraman Canada, and that's where I got the experience, the Ultraman experience.
Right.
And Paulo, at the third day, by the 10th kilometer, he broke. He hit the wall, and then I although I had done a few marathons, and I have done 150K race here in Brazil running. I never had done before a 74K running, which I did with him.
Yeah.
And that day was very, very, very important for me. So, because I had to do in that race, to have that race, the experience of being, the importance of the Aloha, the Ohana, and Kokua as a captain or as a staff. And I got to know in the third day the experience of somehow of being an athlete, because I ran almost the entire marathon with him,
Yeah.
So at the end of day 2, before the day 3, we were at I don't recall the city, it's a small city that ends that time.
Princeton.
Yeah. And only one restaurant, very small restaurant, and we were all there, and I was really excited. And Jane was sitting in a table close to mine, and I looked at her, "Jane, can I go to Hawaii?" I didn't know anything about the process, anything. And she just, with all that, she's such a noble person. Jane's a queen. She looked at me and said, "I think maybe that she thought I think that she thought that this guy doesn't know anything about the how to do an Ultraman." But she looked at me and said, "Yes, you can." And yes, you can. And in 2008, next year, I married, and I said, Paulo, it's got to be 2008, or I won't be able to do in the near future. And then while I was on honeymoon, I was in Rome with my wife, and then the phone rang. It was Paulo, and it was night at Rome, and he said, "Look, Yona, I talked to Jane. We can go to Ultraman Hawaii, but you gotta go into the website right now. Do it now." And my wife, she just said, I can hear you guys. So that's how it came to be. So that's I went to do Ultraman Hawaii in 2008 for that. So that's my story as an athlete.
Wow, that's great. And as you were saying before, your entire family is now part of the organization with 515 for Brazil, including the children, correct?
Oh yes, they do. Anita, which is she's very excited about it now. And one thing that is so nice to see is how she, please allow me to say that, she participates, so she gives her opinion about the materials, even the prices, the timing. She's in my master task, so she knows all the jobs that have to be done, the to-dos have been done. It's very nice. And my mother always, that she when I talk to her almost every day on the phone, she asks, "So how are things for you UB515 this year? Do you need anything? Do you need any help? Is there any athlete has injured?" So it is something that has literally come into our lives. So as the other race directors also, because it's I'm sorry. So we are in 14. So we are not only from Rio de Janeiro, we are from different parts of Brazil. So for 1 week every year, we just stop everything that we do, and we have this calling from Ubatuba, and we go there, and we have a lot of fun. A lot of improvisation also, lots of improvisation, but we have a lot of fun. And for that weight, I never thought about that also, but I think that maybe in some way, UB515 is a way for us, us 14 to get in touch with in person with each other, once a year.
Yeah. And with your kids, what sort of sports are they into? Are they into triathlon? Are they into other sports or?
No, they're not in triathlon, but both are in swimming.
Okay.
Both are swimmers.
So you're gonna start them there like you did.
Oh yeah, if they want to. My daughter, she swims pretty good, and I just I don't force anything, but she's now seeing about running. She's only 11, but I think it's pretty cool. So maybe I think that maybe at some point they will give it a shot, and let's see what happens.
You got enough bikes lying around the house that you can lend her one?
Yeah, definitely, yes. Yeah, yeah. And I think she will bike pretty good because she has a bike, and I can see by her position, and she's very competitive. And let's see how it goes. But I think that the most important thing, Larry, is that they are living and experiencing the importance of sports. That's really, really important. If they go, if they decide to go ahead with it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'm really, I have really the preoccupation. I think that's how we say that in Portuguese. With them is to show them how the importance of sports. It doesn't matter winning or losing. That's not the point.
Right.
But living the sports values. And we're lucky enough to have that in the way that UB15, the Ultraman with the AOK values, they can experience, and I think that makes them not better, but it is different from other kids.
It makes them enriched.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Yes.
Exactly. And it's not better or worse, but from my observation, from their friends, and they are in the other kids, in a very competitive environment. It's important for life, but I think that I stimulate them to be competitive, but I also stimulate them, to live the values of the sport. So it's kind of always the importance to have the balance between those two factors.
Yeah. Well, I would like to get on and talk a little bit to you about this year's race and the field in the race this year. We were talking earlier about how the seeds kind of grow and they spread out around the world, and your race is mainly a regional race with a lot of Brazilian athletes. You've had a few internationals come in from time to time, but not a lot of athletes can afford to travel to the USA and be part of the Ultraman brand. So you're providing a great service for them there in Brazil, and that's great that you do that for your countrymen. So tell us a little bit about these people. Do you have any internationals coming in this year? Who are your alumni that are coming back to race with you? Who's new that's exciting for you to watch and that you've been in contact with? Tell us about your field.
Yeah. So one thing that Curtis and Cory always say that it's very important for us, it is important for us to have people that have been in this race already, but it is also important to bring new people, So this year we're lucky enough to have, 30 participants, and only 5 have been the previous races. So wow. 25 of them, are newcomers, which is very, very good.
That's going to be an exciting way to watch that unfold. Then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing, Larry, also that this race is it will be very interesting for us to observe, is that in all the previous races, we had names like Ivan Albano, we had names like Thiago Menucci, which are regional, athletes here in Brazil, but they're very good, very competitive, very strong age groupers. But this year we don't have, how do you say, someone that's certainly will win? I know that's an expression.
A favorite.
Thank you. Exactly. We don't have a favorite. So I think it's this year, Larry, for us, it's, and I was talking about that with Alexandre, and and my brother Andrews, that we just can't predict who's going to win, because it will be literally a very average, kind of athletes, both on the men's side and the women's side.
Mhm.
Obviously, we expect the Vanus, Vanus is a very experienced athlete, and she has a very good chance of being the first female, to cross the race finish line.
Mhm.
But in general, we're very excited about this year because we don't have a favorite, and let's see how that comes. So it will be uh, a very fair race for everyone, differently from the other years that we had a favorite, and those favorite wants.
Right. Do any of the racers have the experience of past racers coming along to crew for them?
Oh yes, we have some racers that have been here before as staffs or captains. Um, Fabiano is one of those. He has participated in our last year's race, and he has crewed twice before. And we have, and I think that maybe Fabiano has a great chance, a shot. And we have two other people that has crewed before, and now they're coming as as racers,
Right.
as athletes, and that is also something that the AOK value brings to us, because a lot of people that have been crewed before, now they're coming as athletes, so they have experience. And also in the same way, Larry, we have 3 athletes that has been injured during this training, and we always invite them to be with us, in the race, So we're lucky enough to have some a hotel partnership in Ubatuba, so we can provide them their stays, And we always joke with them that we pay very good. We give them a T-shirt and a cap, and it's very common for athletes that have been for the race come back, to help us organize the race. Luis Rissato is one of them. Alexandre Constantino is one of them. Also, they have been before as athletes. Now they come as race directors, organizers.
Mhm.
So we kind of we're very worried to stimulate those people, to, if they can come to the race. I like these 3 injured athletes,
Right.
and 2 of them will come with their families to help us
That's
at
great.
the race.
Yeah. And then hopefully come back the next year.
Oh yes, definitely, yes. Yes, definitely, yes. Because one thing is to have the experience in organizing. The other thing is to come as an athlete. But what we have witnessed here in Brazil, I don't think that's different from other 515 races, is that it is very. Oh, I have Renato Marcelo also has crewed before. He's coming out as an athlete. So I think it's fair to say that every year about 10 to 15% of the athletes have crewed before, which I think is a very good ratio.
Yeah. And how can people that are listening now follow your race when it starts to happen? What do you guys do for live race updates or day of race updates, and where can they go to find those?
Yeah. They can. Everyone can check us at our Instagram, page, and we have a social media director. His name is Sandro Tanaka. He has been with us, since 2015. Unfortunately, it would be he everything would be said in Portuguese, speaking in Portuguese.
Yeah.
But I think that it will be pretty easy to see the dynamics. And Tanaka does a brilliant job. It doesn't stop from 5 p.m. up until 7, 8 p.m. So everyone can check out. We'll be happy to see, and change experiences and even tests in our Instagram page.
Okay, good to know. Well, I really appreciate you coming and sharing the history of your race for the listeners, and hopefully maybe some of them have now been inspired to maybe give you a call and come down and check it out as well. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today, and Your English is excellent. You had nothing to worry about there. So
I was worried about that.
So
you know,
yeah, no, it was absolutely fantastic. So obrigado. Thank you for
no,
coming on.
I would like to thank you, Larry. And I'm really being honest. The other race directors know that I'm here, that I will have this conversation with you. And I really thank you, for letting us share the experiences of UB515, which I think is very familiar experience with the other races that are organized around the world. And thank you, really, I'm really being honest. Thank you, for putting up the 515 podcast, because you have the intention to create this great ohana, uh, despite different cultures. It doesn't matter if it's Israel, Hawaii, or Florida, or Australia, or Spain, or Poland, to put everyone together with these common values, these common shares, that the aloha, the ohana kokua, that are beyond any cultural differences. So thank you. I thank you, for putting that up, and for letting us to participate of it.
Oh, thank you for saying that. That's great. So I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Alex. The more I speak to race directors from outside of North America, the more I realize that this AOK has spread around the world, and the people that are putting on these regional races really do feel it and live it, and it's great that it has spread so much around the world.
Hey, if you liked what you heard today, please tell a friend and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'd appreciate it if you'd rate and review the show while you're there. Drop the names of the people you think we should interview, and we'll get in touch with them and make that happen. Thank you for listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, a production of 55 Enterprises. Now really, go subscribe now before you forget.